now Jay-Z wore KidSuper. When I run into Jay-Z, I am going to bring that up, and it's going to be an icebreaker.
I got a little artifact.
Oh! Wow, you're a fucking legend for this. And I remember being there like, why did I, like, oh my God, how did I plan this so badly? I always wanted to be in the position to do these short films, right? That production felt so real. I mean, I was dealing with Joey Badass, who literally won an Oscar. I have 200 people on set doing lights and I had to step back and I'm like, wow. And everyone coming to me like, who's funding this? And it's like, like, this is a KidSuper production, literally. And this was a great turning point. I mean, I really love that you have this. This is incredible.
Hell yeah.
I'm glad I gave you the fucking hoodie.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 20 of Slewniverse. We are joined today by Colm Dillane AKA KidSuper, an artist, designer, soccer player, director, carpenter, and aspiring model. He is the multimedia artist and entertainer behind KidSuper, a hybrid art brand with a storefront and studio in South Williamsburg, Brooklyn, with countless celebrities, athletes, and musicians wearing Colm's clothes. KidSuper has certainly transcended just beyond a clothing brand. He's sold out art galleries, headlined in Paris Fashion Week, and truly seems to never stop working. As a creative and visual director, Colm often returns to stop motion animation as a medium to promote his clothes, advertise for big companies, as well as direct short films and music videos. KidSuper's identity is woven in this childlike sense of wonder while promoting that anything is possible. He was the recipient of the 2021 Karl Lagerfeld Prize, which is part of the LVMH Awards for Breakthrough Fashion Star. Perhaps a real-life creative superhero, Colm's ability to dream seems unmatched. It seems like nothing is impossible with how much this guy has accomplished. He's an aspiring person with what feels like limitless motivation and potential. When starting this podcast, he was one of the person I really wanted to get on. So this is a big deal for me. I'm really excited. We got a bunch of questions and research for Colm, as well as a little surprise and artifact for him. So really excited. Please enjoy.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
We need our minions.
No, I have a question about your minions in here. Some
wow,
point.
I printed it out. Let's go.
Look at this shit, bro.
I hope there's a lot of Greek mythology questions. 'Cause
Are you well studied?
I am not at all.
What's your favorite myth? Let's start with that.
favorite myth? Well, I just like all the gods of different parts
Yeah,
of
but
the
do you
world.
know any myths? There's some myths you got to know. If I told you some, you'd remember. But
I mean, I know like Poseidon.
okay, that's a Greek god. That's
Greek
one of the
god.
Olympians.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the movie Hercules as a child. That's
like
about
the story of like Medusa,
Yeah.
Perseus,
okay.
or like
What's your favorite? You're the expert.
I'm far from that.
I mean,
but I love it. I love like
I saw your library. It was strictly that and Harry Potter.
It's classics and fantasy. That's for damn sure. My favorite myth is either like Hades and Persephone. How like winter was when Persephone went to the underworld to live with Hades and all that.
That's
like
how winter was started.
Kind of. Don't
Okay.
quote me. All the MDs.
Oh, I like Icarus.
Icarus
Is that-
flying too close to the sun.
That's a good one.
I don't even know that one that well if I could recite that, but there's a lot of crazy one. It's funny, like Greek mythology is filled with just like gods raping mortals. Like
Right.
it's gnarly. And like, but there's stories of like, good versus evil, epic proportion that like our society bases a lot of stuff on. It's pretty
It's
ironic.
It's also it's like a card game in reality. Like they were living a card game, and they're like, wow.
Yeah.
I like that the gods had flaws, because like
Yeah.
the Christian God is just there's too many questions.
Right. Well, that's like religion versus like like it's different. They're gods, but it's a story of like creation and like Troy and like the heroes. It's much more than just like a belief system. It's literally just like the first stories ever told.
Right.
Which gets my
And they're
wiener
really
tingly.
good
Oh,
stories.
they're the best, bro.
I always think about how like we are not making the best stuff that humanity has made.
Mhm.
I mean, even from painting.
Oh, that's for damn sure, man.
So
The funny thing is that it's like I feel like painting specifically, there's like dips, and now there's this like new love, like especially online. Maybe it was always there, but there's some people who are like dedicating their lives to just try to paint like the old masters.
Okay, yeah.
But it's still like you can't ever go back there. They were painting by candlelight, probably like 23 hours a day just to eat. Now just sleeping, technology. No one's working as much as they did.
Right.
It's just impossible.
And you didn't do anything else.
Exactly.
Like now even you're like a podcaster, blah, 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 blah.
Fuck yeah.
It's like there it was like, I am a painter, and this is all I do.
And they were painting most likely for the church, for God. All right, let's jump in. This is wonderful.
Which is what we're painting for the church and God.
I'm painting for Poseidon, honestly.
my one Greek mythology. Yeah, I've heard of Poseidon.
Yeah, Poseidon. Yeah, he's one of the brothers, the big three. But this is episode 20, so you're the 20th episode, which is wonderful. I like that number. And you were one of my white whales because I'm super into you and all the stuff. So this is like huge deal. So thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'm excited.
How excited?
Super excited, podcast life. I haven't done so many podcasts, but we're making the rounds.
But you're a good talker and you like to talk and you obviously have ideas and like to share them. So I think it's interesting and I'm excited because we'll have an hour to just absolutely rip. And I got a lot here.
Good.
My dude.
I hope the Instagram people ask some questions.
Yeah, that's going to be at the end. We'll do a little rapid fire.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, thanks for reposting that.
No problem.
We got hundreds and hundreds. Just kidding. Probably like 50 or 60.
Okay, cool. It's a podcast. We'll lie.
Everybody does it, right?
Yeah. No, we got millions of requests and questions.
But I want to generally I like to run it back sort of some chronological order.
Chronological. You crushed that.
Chronological order. Because you've talked a lot and there's a lot of information about how you start out, but I wanted to talk about the kind of origins, especially with your Williamsburg spot.
Cool.
And I want to throw it back all the way to Hayes Magazine.
Wow.
November 2012, you were going to NYU and this Hayes Magazine was NYU Students for Fashion and Art.
Okay.
And you were the first issue, right? And you also had the launch party at the KidSuper space, which you recently moved into, correct me if I'm wrong, in October.
Yes.
So it was like possibly the first event at your new space.
And so my birthday's in October. So I always launch whatever I'm doing in October.
Right.
And my birthday is the 24th, so it's right before Halloween. So I always do a Halloween-esque,
birthday bash. But my question is, was that like a good rubric, looking back, obviously, for like what that space could be? Like the first event, working with creative people.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's funny, I don't even remember that Hayes thing, you're reminding me. But, so I had the dorm room, which was in NYU, that was kind of a store. And so, you'd walk into my dorm room and it was, paint, all the walls were graffitied and there's racks of clothing and blah, blah, blah. And then the dean found out about it because I was, signing in random people off the street to buy my clothes into a dorm, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? And so ended up really liking that clothing was the connector, right? It was I was meeting new people, I was building new relationships, all because of this really tangible item that I made. And what's cool, as you know, paintings are great, but it's not a connector, right?
Yeah, it's not really an item people can have tangibly.
It's not, and when you're 20, 15, 16, 17, it's not like you're, you know what I want to do is buy paintings. You're very much more focused in buying clothing and stuff. So clothing was introducing me to all these different people, and I was like, wow, this is what I wanted in my creative world that I was trying to get into, was just collaborating and meeting and new experiences and new doors opening up. And so I loved the idea of this physical location because this dorm room was becoming kind of an incubator of different people all from NYU, but also from outside of NYU and all New York City and everything.
A home base.
So I was like, okay, I want to make that real. And I always say this, but my mom had moved to New York City from Spain, and she'd always talk about the 70s and the 80s in New York, and where her rent was $70, and they were all aspiring artists and musicians, and Basquiat and William Dafoe and Steve Buscemi, and everyone was hanging out. And I was like, man, I want that to be my New York.
Yeah.
I want to be part of the next generation of creatives in New York and how to kind of like stamp my foot in there. And so building having a physical location was super important to me, even though one, the location was super in the middle of nowhere, under the train. There was no walking traffic.
In South Williamsburg.
In South Williamsburg. Yep. Before even Williamsburg was what it is now.
This is 2012.
2012, nobody was moving out here. And I was already from New York City, so it wasn't so wild. But I wanted it to be like a destination spot where like you travel to have this like crazy New York experience. And so that was the idea for this space. I ended up living in the back, which is why I asked if you were living here, which he's not, which is crazy. He said, don't shit where you eat. And I was like, that's all I do.
I know. I kind of said that. And I was like, oh, wait, that's exactly what he does. My bad. But that idea of like, don't mix business with home. But you're different.
That whole thing up, and you're probably right.
No, dude. I mean, you literally created a Willy Wonka factory of creative things. And so keep going on that. I think, I mean, that's good that you just said, but maybe a lot of people know that if they know you, if they're fans. Like, that's like a huge thing. Also, that's what everyone's trying to do, have an awesome space, but to the nth degree of music, art, photo shoots, having the storefront. Like, it's literally as much as you can. But I'm curious, like, you got that and you were only a junior, so you had 2 more years left of NYU.
Yeah.
So how'd you kind of balance that?
So, one, I was a math major in NYU, but I went to a math and science like public high school in Brooklyn. Brooklyn Tech. And so I had a lot of math credits. So I kind of skipped a year of college. And so I actually didn't go to college my senior year. I graduated in 3 years.
Wow.
So
big brain.
So then my junior year, I had all my classes Monday, Tuesday, like crammed, and then I'd work Wednesday to Sunday. But it was funny. I was like, so the launch party is a funny story, but I had never launch partied anything, right? I hadn't even really been to many launch parties. So I remember I built the whole space by hand, like all the walls and all the things. And I remember the one thing I rented was like those like velvet ropes. Because I was like, there's 100% going to be a line. I was like, we need the velvet ropes. The VIP velvet ropes. Yeah. And so I didn't know when you set up launch parties. So I set the party from 12 noon to 12 midnight, right?
That's a
no time. Large window, right? So people were looking at the flyer like, when the fuck do I come?
Fashionably late isn't a thing.
So, and I said, performances by. No one knew when the performances were by, blah, blah. So people would come in at like noon and like 2 and 3 and then all the way up to like 9, 10 at PM. So at no point was there a fucking need for these velvet robes. And I remember being there like, why did I, like, oh my God, how did I plan this so badly? But when 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. came around and the performers were in the basement and we had like, I just moved in this space. So like, I didn't care if we destroyed the basement. We had like 100 to 200 kids downstairs and it was like packed and the energy was crazy and like Flatbush Zombies were there, Underachievers performed, and it was like their first performance in Brooklyn. Gashi ended up performing, who now is a pretty big artist. Like all these people that were like up and coming and like in the very, very New York scene performed. And I remember like at night being like, holy shit, we kind of did it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, next day, you're like, now what? You know, you're like, I just crushed that opening. I'm going to open the store. There's going to be 200 kids here every day, right? Never again were there 200 kids. Nobody was coming to the store because like it was a super premature move for like how big KidSuper was.
Interesting. Okay.
And I was very much in between the generation of like social media being your sole purpose in a brand and like my heroes are like Supreme and 10 Deep, and those are all from physical locations.
Yeah.
Like Supreme was a skate store before even a brand.
Yep.
So for me, it was like these stores became, and like you hear about Supreme's early days, and it's like that store was like a really hub for like all these skaters and all this stuff.
Events, whatever.
Yeah, and I was like, this is what I wanted to create more so than like now young brands. It's like, social media is
a lot of them are opposite. They don't have the brick and mortar,
and like they don't want it. They think it's stupid. They think it's a waste of money and time. And for me, it was like, yeah, I mean, selling clothes is cool, but being culturally relevant and helping support culture and people and music and art and that was cool. Like, I don't want to be internet friends with people.
Right.
I want to be like physical,
100%.
like, and so this space for me, and it was cool because I was like, it's funny, like you think about Instagram, it's only like 7 years old.
That's what I'm saying. 2012 was not like, that was not even, I
Like,
don't think they had it. I don't
yeah.
think Snapchat was
Right. So
developed.
like, which is wild to think about
Yeah.
that KidSuper's older than social media because now social media is like every moment of our lives. But, and I was like super against social media because I was like, fuck it, we don't need, like, I was very much, even as a person and like the art that I do, like from claymation to like painting, it's very hands-on.
Yep.
So, I was really, really wanted to make this spot, and I was thinking in the way of like the Supreme history. And so, or even other brands like that, like Mishka, which is an old New York City brand. They were actually 2 doors down from me when I opened the KidSuper spot. And so I was like, oh my God, this, and like when Mishka moved there, it was like, what the fuck? Like, why would you move there,
you were
right?
pissed. You're like, oh no.
No, Mishka. I'm saying when they moved to that neighborhood, Mishka's before me. I was saying like it was in the middle of nowhere. They were like so early on, but they had a really cult following that people would make the trip. So when I found the spot and it was close to Mishka, I was like, oh, this could be like the new streetwear block,
I
like
see.
in Brooklyn. And then another like up and coming streetwear like store moved down the block, and I was like, oh, this is happening. And then Mishka kind of not failed, but like didn't grow with the time.
Dissolved.
They just like didn't hire a young kid to help creative direct, and then they were just like stuck in their old ways. And I was like, dude, like now the streetwear world is way different than what it was back in the day. Like graphic tees are not what graphic tees are now.
But like, so obviously looking back, you could see, okay, you became that like a culture hub, in-person friends and like connections. But you're saying back then, you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. But you said almost like you were over ambitious. You had this insane like 3 stories.
Right. Well, so everyone thinks I own the building. I didn't own the building. I moved in the store, and I lived with a girlfriend to pay for it. So it was 2 people living in a place you're not supposed to live in. And then a year later, the top 2 floors moved out because they were rented. Which were apartments.
Okay.
I called the landlord, and I'm like, don't rent it. I'll have it rented in 2 weeks. So I call my friends. I'm like, look. And it was like the perfect time for my friends, like graduating college because I was a year early. And they were moving, and I was like, look, you guys are going to move to Manhattan. The price is probably going to be double. No one's like, you're going to live in some random apartment. I was like, come live in this building. We'll own the whole building. It'll be a cultural thing. We'll be able, like, you guys all can go to work and do your own thing. But when we do throw fucking amazing things, like, you guys are a part of it.
So that's a power move.
Yeah.
And arguably one of the most important, perhaps, decisions you made.
And that was like another thing, I always say, like, I just spoke at a school last night, and same outfit, so I'll say it was today. Like, part of it, I was like, because they were trying to find like the DNA, like what is success, what defines success, like how do you do it, and like I kept being like, being a good person, like a likable human being, and a person is really important in this generation, right? Like, talent isn't going to take you anywhere because so many people have talent.
Yeah, for sure.
So being a good person, being able to convince people to be on board without having blah, blah, blah. So like me telling my friends to move in, like not many people could have convinced like everyone to move into this idea.
Yeah.
And so that was huge for me. And like of the 5 people that moved in upstairs, like 4 of them work real 9 to 5, like unrelated to KidSuper jobs. But I was like, and I was painting this picture to everyone else that didn't actually really exist. I was like, it's a house full of creatives and like we own the whole building.
Right.
And I painted the building blue so everyone thought it was mine. And like the landlord, it took the landlord 8 months to realize, but when he did, he was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I was like, it's cool. Like everyone will like this building now. But so yeah, it was a lot of like, hugely like faking it till you're making it.
But that's like I think, not to interrupt, like that's the definition of a visionary. Not that like that's a pretty dramatic word, like a creative, but like you had the vision, you convinced people, your passion and excitement was probably the infectious trait
that
supplemented the even if you didn't have the plan, if you didn't know what you're doing, you're like, all right, this is what I want to do. Let's get people involved.
And it was funny, and it's like my friends are always like, they'll get asked about Colm or whatever, and like whatever, and they're
Who's
like,
Colm?
yeah, they'll ask. My name's Colm. I guess we haven't introduced that, but
Colm
Dillane, yeah. And I'll always say like, they'll always say like, yeah, his vision's been the same. Like I've never seen anyone like not change their vision. Like even now we're getting this new space, right? And it's gonna be fully sponsored by all these brands and all this stuff. Like I was pitching brands back then, like, why are you not sponsoring my like there should be a room for creatives to live sponsored by like Airbnb.
Though? Like you had it, but you just had to, you need years of work and expansion and growth too.
And I mean, like people start over time believing in you.
Exactly.
Once you prove them the 10 times that it'll work.
That's similar to me. Like this whole space, like it's funny. I actually DM'd you way back before Flying Machine, your gallery show. Like I'm building my own space. Like I'm trying to have a creative factory, which was my old space in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Like it was similar to this, a little smaller, but photo studio, production, art. Like, and my goal was to have hella people in like a fantasy factory, but it never happened. It was just me. It was in like a weird place in Connecticut.
That's another thing. Like the luck happens, right? Like we got super lucky. Being in New York helps, right?
But yeah.
And I mean, we had like, there's been, I was also like very, I mean, I guess I had a good eye for talent, like other talent, weirdly. Like we got pretty lucky with the people that randomly like decided to crash and stay. And like, I even think about it, like there's a funny moment where these two kids, like kind of like you DM'd me, but they're from like Kentucky, and they're like, hey, like we're coming up to New York, like can we crash on your couch? And I was like, sure, no problem. Like didn't know them, just let them crash on the couch. And I was like, at that time, I would let anyone crash on the couch because I didn't care about anything. Not that now now I would let most people, but it's a little weirder now. But anyways, fast forward 6 years, they're from Kentucky. They end up creative directing for this young rapper from Kentucky. They bring him up from Kentucky to New York. They're like, hey, we want to introduce you to him, blah, 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 blah. Ends up being Jack Harlow.
Yeah. Wait, is that Dean?
It's
Dean gave me your number.
No, but Dean's
from Kentucky,
But
from Louisville.
Dean's not the person.
Okay. I was about to say that would be a crazy connection.
No, it's these two kids that started a brand called Nowhere. My point of this was like, I wasn't letting those kids sleep on my couch, and the idea of like, Jack Harlow.
Exactly. Yeah. No. With the.
So like, there's a lot of things like that where it's like me just being super Malachi.
That's a hard one.
Wow, I fucked that up. Frank and Malachi.
We're gonna keep that in, honestly, because you got it.
Malachi. No, because I'm a visual person and I can't remember like anything, and I'm like literally reading Malachi, and I'm like, why can't I come up with it? But anyways, so just like being open minded and letting people come be a part of it was cool, and just like I was such a hustler that I like. And working so hard that like you felt awkward being around me if you weren't working that hard. So I guess it kind of weeded out all the like bullshitters.
That's cool. I want to touch on something because you just said a lot. Specifically, you're talking about the events with the underachievers and Flatbush, because clearly now music, I mean, countless celebrities, athletes, and musicians, but you would think a lot of musicians, you're homies with all of them. Like, from the get-go, you were making clothes, but did you have this intention to be like a music collaborator? Because music, I feel like, from my perspective, is so paired with your brand.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, like, what music means to you, but also to the brand.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think from day one, it was all music.
Really?
It was like, music was the connector. Even from like the first t-shirt I made, the first person to wear it were musicians. And I always dreamed of having this KidSuper album where I was like DJ Khaleding a group, and I'm still trying. And I'm gonna
a week making dresses.
Oh yeah, we've made some Colm songs that are slightly embarrassing, slightly amazing. But yeah, no, it was weirdly paired, and even from when I was in NYU, I was trying to meet all the musicians at NYU, and I remember listening to this song from Rory. He's a very good artist, but I was like, man, this beat is amazing. Who made this beat? And they're like, oh, they're from NYU. And I was like, no way, let me introduce you, blah, blah, blah. Ends up being Take a Day Trip. And they produced the entire Montero. And like that, Take a Day Trip's like my really, really close friends. And they've performed at like 15 KidSuper parties. And back in the day, it was that's what I'm saying. Like I had a weird ability to know talent because I found them off. I should have been an A&R for. I literally listened to a song and I was like, didn't care about the artist. I was like, who made this beat? Right. And I'm not even that musically gifted. I guess I was really good at like, understanding.
But I think also, I mean, luck and could be, that's like an ethereal version. But also, you're just incubating hard work and hustle, so that in turn just attracts people.
Yeah,
if you're nice and personable.
Yeah,
people of all sorts who want to work hard.
Right.
Happen to be talented.
And I was saying the clothes always ended up being a great conversation starter where it was like, I could hit up these kids at NYU and they wanted to be my friends more than I even wanted, you know, because I already had this whole thing buzzing and everyone knew about me. So that's what I always said with the clothing. It's like, now Jay-Z wore KidSuper. When I run into Jay-Z, I am going to bring that up and it's going to be an icebreaker. And, you know, it's like,
hell yeah.
That is always the beauty of the clothing for me.
Yeah, it's a linkage.
Yeah. And I think I always say this, but if you've worn KidSuper, we're best friends. Like if I see a random person on the street wearing KidSuper, I just hug them. And they're like, what the, oh my God.
I have a KidSuper Puma shorts at home.
Okay.
But it's cold out.
Yeah, the fact that you're not wearing KidSuper for this interview.
I thought you were going to bring me some shit, to be honest.
Oh, fuck.
I'm kidding.
Wow, I should have 100%, but if it makes you feel better, I'm wearing the same outfit that I did yesterday, so I didn't sleep.
It cancels out.
Yeah. But he could have given you the hoodie.
He's swagging out.
Yeah, he's wearing, for the record, the man behind the camera is wearing.
He's got a cam, baby.
Oh, you have a cam.
Chris cam.
It's dead. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
What the fudge? Really?
It's hot. You don't want to wear the sweatshirt.
No, we don't have to. But for the record, he's wearing a full KidSuper fit.
Do you want to fiddle with it?
And wow, to be honest, now that you said that, I feel really upset not giving.
No,
you.
dude,
Here,
I was teasing.
No, take the hoodie. It's a large.
I'm taller than you, I think.
Yeah, I feel like this will fit.
Thank you. As Chris tries to turn on the GoPro.
Here,
do you not want to
go.
turn it on? Is it dead?
No, it's turning off.
It doesn't matter. No,
Wow.
I always
smell like him.
Yes, you deserve this, and
Clothes off his back.
I hate that I didn't bring that,
dude,
and
I'm
that's a great.
teasing.
No. This is beautiful. This is even
That was
better.
all part of my plan.
Yeah, you look great. I'm glad we did this.
That's enough.
Camera's back on.
Yes.
We're good.
All right, Chris, flex. Yes, KidSuper setup.
Okay.
But you were talking because that's again music, clothes. I'm trying to link this all. You also, I've heard you say a lot. Selling clothes was always your goal and passion, designer, but it was a form to supplement, to get income, to finance other creative projects. Was that kind of from the start, or is that more now? Is that still current?
That was probably more then.
More than.
I was really not, like, the reason I started making clothing was basically because I was like, fuck the clothing kids in my school.
What do you mean?
So I went to high school in Brooklyn, and it was and I had just lived in Wisconsin prior to that. So I moved a shit ton when I was little, but right before I moved, I had lived in Wisconsin. And so when I came to New York, they put such an emphasis on being cool and dressing cool. Like, you know when you watch those old 90s and it's like the jock is banging the cheerleader and he's good at football. Like in my high school, like being good at football was like dressing cool.
Okay, yeah, totally. It's like a cultural cornerstone.
So kids would spend like a huge hustle back then was like waiting in line for the shoes or the clothes and flipping them. So when you're a teenager, you're down to wait in line. And so like a lot of the cool kids would do that and then make money and buy their own stuff and dress cool. And so I remember being like, man, I don't want to like buy other people's clothes to make me cool. Like I should be cool without whatever. What I wear shouldn't determine my coolness. Let me start making clothes. So the clothing thing was it wasn't like, oh man, I'm going to cry at the Margiela fashion show. Fashion's my life. It was more like, I was always good at art. I was always creative. I was always making stuff. clothing became really important just because of where I was living. So I kind of combined them. And we didn't have arts classes in my high school because it was super math and science. So this was a way for us to like really make and do stuff. So
And do it yourself.
we were first doing it. I was just making t-shirts for your birthday. If it was your birthday, I'd make you a t-shirt. If it was your like, and I was spray painting on blah, blah, blah. And then since we were in New York, we had heard of Supreme, 10 Deep. There's a brand called Only New York that was like at the time, and it's still around. But
I thought that was newer. That was way back then.
Yeah, way back then.
NY.
It was super like that one felt tangible because it wasn't huge, and like you could read about the dude who started it, and we were like, wait, we could be Only.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so yeah, that brand was a big inspiration for us. And it was all about being in New York, you know. And then yeah, we launched a brand as high school kids. And so we were super like there was no master plan.
Yeah. But as time went on, what I'm saying is like, okay.
No,
I have this
every money I
project.
got, so that then I would be like,
Yeah.
I'd finish designing some clothes, I'd get money, and then I'd meet a rapper, right, or musician, and I'd be like, who does your album art? Why don't I do your album art? Who does your videos? Why don't I do your videos? So like, if you gave me an inch, I'd be like,
Yeah.
let's do anything and everything. And so that became, and what was cool is as I started doing like videos and more art for the brand,
We're gonna get into it.
I started getting asked to do more videos and art outside of it. So it was like kept and I always wanted to like establish myself as this artist that could do different things, but never so much because, you know, everyone hates someone who's like spreads themselves thin and is like, yeah, I'm a musician and an
Creative
artist and I'm a
director,
creative,
yeah,
blah, blah.
yeah.
And so for me, like early on, it was really important to establish like, you've seen me draw and paint since day one. You've seen me do videos since day one. You've seen the clothes. So like, and those aren't that wildly different, you know? And so it was always rooted in like growing as an artist. And with that, it breaks the ceiling of like streetwear and blah, blah, blah. And so like now when people talk about Colm, they sometimes say artist, which is great instead of saying like, you know, creative director, as you were saying.
Well, I think it's easy to get pigeonholed. I think there is room for categories because without some sort of hierarchy of, you know, categories or lanes, you know, there's no meaning in anything. Like people are like, oh, I'm the painter kid. But I spend equal, if not more time behind the computer editing and filming, you know, and like I love it all also. But that leads me to a great question because how would you identify KidSuper? Has it changed from the start? But like you wear all these hats,
Right.
You know, how would you define yourself and how would you define your brand now? And then can I just continue because I have a little rant. I feel like KidSuper now is almost, I don't know how to call it. It's like an entertainment, you know, conglomerate. Like clothes is obviously a main pillar, but video production, you know, entertainment, you do all this acting, you throw events, you know, under this umbrella. So it's like obviously hard to put one word on it, but that's kind of how I look at it. There is, you know, like you said, you broke the ceiling.
So what I really like about KidSuper is it like, if you compare me to other designers, right? When most designers coming up now, their brands are their names, right? And it's like, I mean, which takes you into like a very clothing world, right? If you're a brand that's a name. And so what I love about KidSuper is like, if this was a KidSuper cup and you had never seen it before, there's something that you visualize that comes to mind. You're like, you understand the essence of KidSuper so much that you could apply it to a cup, right? If you go, never seen this cup, but it's an Apple cup, you have a vision of what that Apple cup would look like. And so what I love so much about the KidSuper world is I've built the like feeling, the ethos, the vibe of it so well that you know what it would be like if I throw a party, or you can expect what you can,
like a tangible visual identity.
Because it has such a real like brand, as I was saying, a brand identity that it can apply to different things. And so that's what I was really working to establish, right? And so with that, now that that's like foundation is so strong, you can apply it to, you know, media, like a KidSuper series, you can visualize what.
I see.
Like KidSuper podcast, you would kind of understand what it's like.
Yeah.
And so that establishing that kind of brand is not easy and is what I'm like super proud of.
Yeah, I think that's hard, and there's good questions from the Instagram that talk about brand identity. We can get back into it. But another thing that I think we kind of have in common is like our passion for documenting, and like again, people don't, this is the first time we met, by the way, people watching and listening, so it's a wonderful celebration. But I love, like, almost as much as painting, if not more, documenting video specifically. And I think it's interesting for both of us, if you strip away, we know what you are now, but like if you strip away what KidSuper is, you're selling clothes, and in that system of selling clothes, you need to advertise it. You need to show people the clothes. And so within that, you have this new medium to work with, video, photos, claymation, and it's epic. And clearly you've done a lot really successfully. I watched actually every single YouTube video you have on your account and all your Instagram, and it's a lot of work to support the clothes or to support the brand. And so you said before you've always been into it, but has your passion for video and like your creative direction, you just did that huge Misadventures of KidSuper, was that passion and now success a supplement for advertising for KidSuper, or were you always into it?
No, it was basically the clothes are funding that.
Okay.
And that's how
and
I
for
saw
it. Like I need to
sell clothes so that I'll be able to do videos.
Okay, so it's a product of.
And another thing is like a lot of people early on were like, oh, you have to get this person to wear it and this person to wear it, blah, blah. And I hate it. I hate the idea of like begging someone to wear it. And I was like, it would be way cooler if me wearing it was just as powerful as a Drake wearing it, for the brand. And so I owe it. That was another reason why I was like so public about, because there's a lot of designers that are mysterious. You don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I didn't even have the possibility of doing that, right? Because it wasn't nobody. If I was mysterious, you would have never heard of KidSuper. So for me, it was really like the only way, and my personality and me knowing a lot of people, and just being like outgoing and passionate and funny or goofy, was part of like the sale of the brand. So I didn't have the luxury to be like, oh, I'm going to be mysterious and you're just going to like me for my work. It would have
just post a couple photos online.
Yeah, it would have gone to deaf ears. So, I mean, and then as you're saying about the video, I literally am just like calling it advertisement, but it's really like, I want to do these films.
It's a creative, huge project and outlet.
It's funny because for that Misadventures thing, so I really wanted to do a short film that felt like a scripted KidSuper TV show. And so I wanted to do that outside of everything. Luckily, Paris Fashion Week went virtual because of COVID. And so now I could just slap on Paris Fashion Week to that. And then I justify spending $200K on that video.
Jeez.
Because that's what a fashion show costs.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, if I'm doing Paris Fashion Week, which I have to now, because I'm part of the official calendar and I can't, if I quit.
Wasn't that the past 2 years though? Didn't you do 2 big videos? You did if you're a genius, if not, you're crazy. I'm sorry. What is it?
If the plan works, you're a genius. If the plan fails, you're insane. Or if the plan doesn't work, you're insane. If the plan works, you're a genius. And that was funny because I was like talking to people and they were like, well, if this doesn't work, you're kind of insane. I was like, but if it works, I'm a genius. And I was like, well, then that's a cool line. But I mean, the budget for that one was like $70K.
That video is so fucking good, dude.
That one's and then the one where I ask what you want to do before you die.
Yep, that's in Washington
that was
Square
another
Park.
That was another $70K. So maybe the first one was like $50K, $70K, and then this one was like $250 or something.
Yeah.
And that one was like I almost died shooting that one.
In the freezing cold.
It was so cold, and so like that was what I was saying is like I even thinking about it's kind of like gets me emotional, but gets me a little emotional just because it was like I always wanted to be in the position to do these short films, right? And on this production that was like really big, and like that production felt so real. I mean, I was dealing with Joey Badass, who literally won an Oscar, and then I'm dealing with like I have 200 people on set doing lights and I had to step back and I'm like, wow, And everyone coming to me like, who's funding this? And it's like,
Me, bitch.
I'm like, this is a KidSuper production, literally.
Yeah. Dude, when you were posting your Instagram stories of like all the crazy lights, and, like, it gave me boners, bro. I love that shit.
And me too. I was there. I was like, wow, we really did it. I really like faked it till I made it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
I don't like that though. I don't think so. Faked it.
Well, like
people really fake it. You were making shit for 10 years.
No, that's what I'm saying. But like, I guess I was saying the fake it was like 10 years ago. I was like, oh, I want to do short films.
Sure.
And then like, holy shit, now I'm really doing short.
Yeah, but
films.
that's called persistence.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I was being humble, but yeah, I grinded mine.
No, but I know what you mean. It's like you don't have the capital or resources 10 years ago,
right?
But you still have the same desires and interests.
And it was just cool to really say like, damn, I put like that was like the cool thing is so I was trying to pitch that TV show, and I'm still trying to pitch that TV show concept.
Scram or the real life?
The real life and
action.
Scram, but
Okay.
Scram supposedly. So I was talking to some people. You get an animation show when you're famous.
Interesting.
They're like, because I think of like the fucking what's the show on Netflix where they're like teenagers with puberty.
Big Mouth.
Like
That show's fun.
the whole show is celebrity, right?
Yeah.
John Mulaney,
Nick
blah, blah,
Kroll.
blah, Nick Kroll, da, 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 da. So they were saying like nowadays, like your animation show comes when like your voice is recognizable. But I was like, you guys should do Scram now.
Wait, I have a quick question about that. On your YouTube channel.
Why don't I not have 1 million subscribers is what you're asking?
That is a huge tangent I'm going to go off because I'm the YouTube lord. And ever since I've been following you, like, and this is the thing, huge tangent, overarching what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Like, when I think about you, obviously, I actually like your paintings a lot. I'm not a huge fashion guy.
Right.
Like, I never bought KidSuper, not because I don't like it, but because like I never buy clothes. It's not my thing. I wear the same painting pants and t-shirts for like 5 years. But when I think about you and why I'm into you, my creative crush is your, which we just said we hate, your creative direction, like your videos, your directorial things. And like, yes, I loved Fine Machine, the paintings, but like, that's why I love your shit, because you use all of like your brand through these creative outlets, through the freaking stop motion animation, which is insane. Like the Cherry Hill video, I was like, holy butthole. But
Almost died filming that one as well.
yeah, wait, where was I going? What were we talking about? We're talking about video. Oh,
Why I don't have 1 million
oh
subscribers.
yes, okay, exactly, yeah. And so he would always say in 2015, like, I want to start a TV show. I want to do this. I'm like, dude, why do you want like some big brand deal when you could just post everything on YouTube and have the most amazing web series, which is now even more popular than fucking Discovery Channel and everything?
Couldn't agree more. It was
like, you haven't penetrated the YouTube game.
No, I haven't at all.
Which is fine because you've done a million other things. But I'm saying, like,
No,
I've always
I-
thought, like, oh my god, he could be massive on YouTube.
No, there's more. There's a couple answers. One, it's not easy, right?
No.
Like as you just said, you spend more time editing on this things than that. So for me, it was like I would do these huge projects, video projects, and then I'm on to the next like fashion shit, and then I'd come back and drop an amazing video. But it was like YouTube's about consistency and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Two, I didn't necessarily really want to become like a YouTube
YouTuber,
star.
100%.
And so for me, it was like, I mean, and no offense to anything on YouTube, but sometimes it's like, it's very hard to go from like YouTube to like respected
100%.
artist, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I know that like a lot of the time, and my personality is like kind of a YouTube, like I would work on YouTube. I am loud and like in your face, but I didn't want like that to outshine the work.
You didn't
that I
want to be
was making.
pigeonholed.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be like, oh, we know Colm because he has a funny personality and he talks and he like we get, and even so like back in the day, Vice tried to do a TV show on me, right? And the producers came in and we had all these executive things, and I was like, I was living in the house, right? And at the time, 2 very beautiful girls were living in the house. And they were like, oh, what's the relationship between you and the beautiful girls? Like, is there drama there? Like, da-da. And I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, no, guys.
Yeah,
like, the
fuck
only
that.
reason beautiful girls are living here is because instead of me trying to fuck girls in college, I was building this thing and working super hard.
Look what I fucking made,
And
y'all.
then so I that was the things where I was like, But no, and then another reason why I never did the YouTube thing is like, I did most of the shit you're talking about like completely alone, and like I would have needed, and I still need, but like a video kid to come in and be
That's
like,
what I'm
yo,
saying.
you edit everything, you shoot everything,
Right.
like I'll give you whatever percentage you want, and then you become like the YouTube person.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Like, not to be like a YouTuber and be like, hey,
Right.
this is day in my life, but just someone always documenting. Like, you're always
Yeah.
doing so many projects. I, as a viewer,
Yeah.
younger, was just like, okay, I just want to see more. I
Right.
want to see the behind the scenes.
Right.
Like, I love your final product, but I want to see the inner workings.
We have, the funny thing is I have those videos. I just
you.
haven't released it.
I believe you.
And I was always trying to get like ready to I'm still trying to get ready to release, but I mean, we have interviews. I have interview series where I interviewed Russ in 2013.
Yeah, that's cool.
Where he's like, yo, I want to be this, and I have it in my account, and like, so we have those. I was like getting established enough and like financially stable enough to like try to hire someone to do that.
Yeah.
But that was always in my mind. I also did think like someone was just gonna give me a fucking TV show.
Yeah. Okay, but back to the Scram. You have 1 million views on that. Was that
Yeah.
some photo shit? Because
No, that was Puma.
how? But how do you get 1 million? Like some hacking? You just hired a bunch of people to watch
Puma
it?
was like, we're gonna
So they just
put-
advertise?
Yeah, we're gonna put some money behind this.
Yeah, 'cause
but
I was-
yeah, that's why it's a little weird. It's like, okay, everything else has like 50K.
Well, your top comment is like,
Yeah.
if this gets 1 million views, we could get it on
And then
Netflix.
they-
and I
and
was
then
like,
they-
wait, did they just hack this? Or
We
something?
definitely hacked it,
Yeah.
fully hacked it. But I was like, they were like, because you can buy views or like finagle views. So Puma was like, we can put like 10K into finagling views, and I was like, run it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But for me, it was more about like I don't have like YouTube integrity where
Mhm.
it's like, oh, how'd you like? I think everyone knew that one was like a Puma sponsored thing, so they
Sure.
like,
No, I thought it was like literally, you were just like, you and Photo were trying to finesse. Like,
Well-
oh, we got 1 million views. Look at Netflix. Look at how popular.
Well,
we
no,
are.
that was the idea. It
Yeah.
just wasn't Photo, it was Puma. But I
see.
was like, because in Netflix, you don't know, like if you're in a meeting, you're like, hey, Netflix, this got 1 million views. But I did think like that Scram deserved. That's another thing. Like, I'm totally fine if you buy views and your content's like worth 1 million.
Mhm.
Like, I do think a lot of the
Sure.
times where
No, for sure.
I'm looking at the KidSuper videos, I'm like, I should just get him. This deserves 1 million
Yeah,
views.
totally.
But with Scram, I felt like that's the only one. I mean, I didn't do it. Puma did, but it was. I felt like it was obvious that Puma came behind.
No,
and
for sure. When you make dope
boosted-
shit, internally love
boosted
it.
it.
You want as many people
No,
to
yeah,
see
and like
it.
even no, like you and Schultz and everybody. It's like it shows like the power of YouTube and the consistency and what comes with YouTube. I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do. I would. Yeah, you know, if you know
I
anyone
don't think
out
you
there,
should be like the editor, but it was
Yeah.
just always my one thing because I know it seems that you're so passionate about
No,
video.
yeah, but
Even
like you
behind the
should have just
scenes
called
stuff.
me at fucking whatever age you were and be like, I'm coming over and I'll do it. I'll be like,
I know,
nice.
but
Here
I was
you
trying
are.
to do it for myself.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
That's another issue with, not issue, but like the younger generation. How old are you?
I'm 26.
26. But like if you talk to a 21, 22-year-old, everyone wants to be their own
Yeah.
entity.
And so the talented people don't want to work for other people. They want to
And-
work for themselves.
And 9 out of 10 times they're horrible human beings. Because they're like, I'm the fucking star of the
Yeah,
star. And
yeah,
you're just
yeah.
like,
they want
"Dude,
the clout.
oh, I don't want to talk to you. So like that's also been an issue of just like finding good talent that you. I mean,
Yeah.
like if you have an editor guy filming you 24/7, like you have to like them a lot.
Yeah.
Not that easy.
No, Chris is a mogul. Chris is just for this podcast, but he does other podcasts.
Okay.
And he's the switchblade that people need because
That's the most important part about my job is because I like go on road with comics and stuff. And my most important thing is being able to get along with them because they could hire anyone
No, and
to
it's
make
so
videos. And
huge.
like, you have to be able to hang out with me in
Yeah,
the airport
totally.
and when we're stuck in traffic. Like, that's the most important thing.
No, I've had a lot of people come in where I'm like, man, I just
you're mids.
I
What the
rather
fuck?
you
Yeah,
just
said-
not be around me. I'm like, I rather this not be
And
documented.
they're like, how am I gonna get the shot
yeah,
of
no,
your naked body running down the street?
and like a lot of the time too, it's like we do so many things at random hours that it was just like,
scheduling's impossible.
yeah, it's hard, but I think it's always. I have been filming, so
Yeah.
I have a lot of videos that you haven't seen that are like edited and done.
Oh,
I was just trying to think of like a plan, and I'm not good at YouTube, and I'm not like a YouTube watcher
but
either.
not even like the idea of YouTube uploading.
Right.
It's just like a library, which you have, but just
I agree.
I just love the behind the scenes.
No,
you know?
and I like it even watching, like when I'm watching stuff, I'm a huge fan of like how it's made more so than what it is.
Dude, I'm 100% the same.
Process porn.
Like a 10-minute, 20-minute video of behind making Misadventures of KidSuper. Like,
no, so we
my
have
butthole would pucker.
We have it. I just haven't edited it.
Wow. Well, I'm excited.
So that's another thing. Yeah, like me editing after filming after shit.
I understand.
But no, I mean, we're looking for someone to do that.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
If I don't know how many people are out here, but let's
millions
go.
are watching this right now.
Live.
No. Far from millions. All right, we've covered a lot, but I want to keep going. Some stuff you talked about, like balancing the things you want to do, creatively fulfilling yourself, fulfilling the brand, making money because that's an obvious business thing, and then working with brands,
right?
Because it's been apparent. You talked about Puma. From what I've seen through the years, Jagermeister and Puma have been like huge collaborators, not only supporting you but financing cool projects. Can you speak to like balancing all of that, but also with the intent to raise money for your own projects?
Right. So without the brands like Puma, Jagermeister, and all the other ones in between, I would have never been able to do any of the things that you've seen or I would have had to take investment. But had I taken investment, they would have pushed me into like, Colm, you're not spending $300K on this video.
Yeah.
You should hire this and try to expand and blah, 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 blah. So with these brand collaborations, it's like free. It's like investment without having to like hear from someone. And so for me, it's been super, super important. And the cool thing, as I was saying, is like KidSuper's world is so established that they know what they're getting into.
Right.
So if I'm like, hey, I want to spend your budget on this cartoon, they're not like, whoa, that's so off brand. They're like, okay, like that. So the cool thing so that cartoon cost, I had $100K marketing budget from Puma. And I mean, like, I'm always not supposed to talk about numbers, but I always do because I think it's like good to hear.
I think it's extremely contextually important.
So each collection that I did with Puma, you get marketing budget, and it's like usually around 50 to 100K, depending on whatever. So I got 100K, and that goes to like launch party if you want, or photo shoot, or little video that you launch. So usually it would be, I paid an artist or musician $30K to perform at my event that costs $60K to produce and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And you pocket 10 or whatever. For me, COVID hit, right? No, so this was funny. I said, let's do a cartoon because I always wanted a KidSuper cartoon. It makes sense. Actually, Scram was my first clothing brand that I ever had. And I was like, Scram is such a good name.
It is. But
it was all, back when I started, it was all about like skateboarding and graffiti, and you'd scram, cops are coming. And so I wasn't really like a graffiti artist, and I wasn't really like a skater, but I just thought like Scram, and I was like, man, I'm gonna use Scram. And I actually never would tell anyone that Scram was the name because I didn't want anyone to know. And then I was like, I'm gonna use it for something. And then I was like, fuck, Scram's a great cartoon name.
Nice.
So anyways, I always wanted to make this cartoon, and I had pitched Puma. I'm like, let's do a cartoon. They're like, it doesn't really make sense because it's like a drawing of the clothes. Like, it's not really selling the clothes because you can't really
that's valid.
Contextualize like that's the product. And I was like, yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah. COVID hits. I'm like, we can only make a cartoon. And they're like, fuck, okay, Colm, you can do the cartoon. I was like, we can't do events, we can't do this. And so they're like, fine, you can do the cartoon. And so I'm like, can we try to get some of your celebrities that are Puma ambassadors to be a part of it? Ends up, they're like, who do you want? I'm like, how? I had a text.
Neymar.
I was like, Neymar. Neymar hadn't signed actually.
Oh, okay.
So I was good friends with Hector Bellerin, who's another soccer player. and I got his voice, and then I had my own relationships, and then they're like, who would your dream person be? And I was like, how could we get Usain Bolt?
Yeah,
And,
that's crazy.
And they're like, you know what? I had said like, cause like Lewis Hamilton was also one of the people I wanted.
Oh my God, dude,
because
I love him.
But in my mind, Usain Bolt was too big. I was like, oh, let's do Lewis Hamilton.
Really? Wow, I think Lewis is bigger than Usain.
Yeah,
in my mind, I'm a huge F1 fan.
I was gonna say, like, if you're a Formula One fan,
huge
yes,
F1
like
fan.
I
He's a god.
I couldn't be less of a Formula One
Okay,
fan. Like,
that's
I don't even know the rules. So I'm like, yeah, let's try for Lewis Hamilton because I wanted like a driving scene, and I was like, okay. I was like, he's such a character in himself because he does very specific stuff.
Yeah, and he's a big fashion guy.
Yeah, so I thought
right?
it was possible. He ends up saying like he can't for some scheduling or whatever. And they're like, what about Usain Bolt? And I'm like, why the fuck didn't we start with Usain Bolt? And I'm like, yes, please. They're like, Usain Bolt is like hilarious and always down to do fun projects. And we have such a relationship with him. He's probably down.
With Puma.
With Puma
Wow,
and
so
like,
cool.
because they signed him when he was like 13. And
That's
like,
insane.
they've known him for forever. And they don't even have like a lifelong contract deal with them. It's just like so embedded.
Yeah.
So like they just keep re-upping it. Or maybe they do. I don't know if that's actually true, but they mentioned like, it's just, he loves Puma. It's whatever. Anyway, so I'm like, they're like, can you send him the script? And I'm like, holy shit, like let's write this Usain Bolt's script. So I do this Usain Bolt's script. And then like a day later, I get these voice memos from Usain Bolt on his iPhone, and it's him being like, he's like the joke was like, are you Usain Bolt? Like, if you really are Usain Bolt, did you eat so supposedly before he broke all the records, he ate fried chicken or chicken nuggets beforehand. And everyone's like, why are you eating chicken nuggets? And so the thing is like, the kid goes in the cartoon, he's like, if you're really Usain Bolt, like, did you really eat chicken nuggets before you broke the world records? And he goes, and I wrote with honey mustard on the side as his response. And he goes, oh, it wasn't honey mustard, it was barbecue sauce.
Wow.
And so he changes it to barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, the story's real?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I cannot believe
You're
he's
like a journalist.
Yeah, I was like, this is amazing. And the best part is like he was fucking up a little bit. And so like you'd hear him be like, with barbecue Bumba clap, and like it's like voice memos of Usain Bolt, and I'm like, man, like this is crazy that this is the world I'm dealing with from making t-shirts,
Right.
you know? And that's about pushing the limit and really like demanding Puma.
With the creative freedom, like
Yeah.
you're demanding. Well, they know now, but like with ultimate, freedom for you to do your thing. Hey, trust me.
And we're in a generation now where it's in their best interest to
yes.
take. It's not like they can be like, Colm, if you don't do this, like you're shunned. It's like, oh, like not that I would do that, but like me publicly hating Puma
Yeah, exactly.
is a real risk for them.
No,
to me to be
for
like,
sure.
oh, they wanted to
Yes.
like take away my creative, like some creative people would do that. I'm not that type of person, but like that's a fear for them.
100%.
And my like little community is actually so powerful because it's real.
Yeah, and you're physically able to convert so many people's opinions. When you throw around $100,000, you're like, wow, they're doing you such a favor.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like they're lucky to
Yeah.
have this relationship, and they're going to continue probably. Because
And so
of all
now
that.
I'm like pitching episode 2, and I'm like we can get Neymar now and stuff like that.
That's fucking
And so the
crazy.
people at Puma, that's another thing. You think of these huge conglomerates like they're not humans, but the person that I'm dealing with is join Puma because they love creative stuff. They love fashion. So they're just as invested in the second season as I am. So I always hear people that are like, oh, how do you like get what you want when you're working with brands? It's like, they also want to do dope shit.
Yeah.
You just have to convince it that it's like monetarily. That was the thing. My Puma's collection sold really well and was really commercially successful, and the ambassadors really wore it, which is hard,
Yeah.
because usually
So you penetrated.
I did like they liked it, and
I have the
sales.
shorts, the Puma X KidSuper.
And you consider yourself not really a fashion guy. So like we even hit those type of people.
Well, yeah, this is just like me trying to support the homies. Even
Oh.
though we didn't know each other. It's like, oh, I fuck with that. But like I said, like I would never buy this.
Right.
Because it's just not my shit.
No, that's what I was saying about the Puma collection. It was like it allowed like a different consumer to wear KidSuper
Yeah.
because I did have to. I mean, like I was in the creative meetings and they were like, because I don't know if you saw, but I have like the all over painted puffer jacket.
Right.
And I was like, I need this. They were like, we can't get you. They were like, we can't do this. I'm like, I want an all over print puffer jacket. And they're like, no, sorry. I was like, I'll give you blank tees that say KidSuper.
That's so funny.
And they're like, all right. And so like I had
That's
to make
smart.
like very simple
Mhm.
blank t-shirts that said KidSuper Puma. And they gave me the puffer jacket. Ends up J. Cole wears the puffer jacket for his first video in like 5 years.
I told you.
And then, but then like that little blank simple KidSuper tee, Jay-Z wore.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, big win for everyone. So that was funny. I was like, wow, they won. Because like Jay-Z doesn't wear really loud clothes.
Right.
So you had to do something simple for him. But yeah, I mean, working with like even Jagermeister has been incredible. And with them, they were always impressed. So like how that relationship started for the Flying Machine show.
Got a little artifact.
Oh, wow, you're a fucking legend for this.
You like that? I was there, and I made a little Instagram video. I don't know if you remember when you said some funny shit at the end. We
okay.
could watch it later, but yeah,
No.
I remember being like, oh shit, huge gallery space, super sick, a bunch of awesome work, and then
Can you
they had.
explain what he's looking at?
He's looking at what would you call this?
Like the buyer sheet.
Yeah, the
for-
buyer sheet for all his paintings listed, price, size, medium, and this is what you would give out at the gallery show for people interested in buying.
So this was my first like art show. This was like, okay, Colm's like a painter. And I had been...
it was a big show, bro.
So I'll tell you like the backstory of this is quite great. So wall play,
Ryan Foss.
it was... But he came into wall play. Wall play was really
Okay.
created by Laura. And Laura O'Reilly is her last name? No, Laura... It's something. I don't know.
Shout
Delete
out
that.
Laura.
I'm so bad at names.
I am too.
We've seen this
It's okay,
like
dude.
twice today.
You got the Laura right.
Yeah, no,
needs
Laura's
a last
Laura's
name?
a super close friend of mine, but she started this company called Wall Play, and it had this venue on Delancey Street, this
Mhm.
amazing venue, and she'd do like shows and brand stuff and all this stuff, and so like Wu-Tang would drop their thing there and like blah, blah. And she was always hustling and bustling, but she was very focused on helping young creatives. And so one of my friends did an art show there, and he was a curator, and he was like, hey, Colm, can you do a painting or whatever? And there was a big billboard on top of this wall play thing. And he was like, can you do the billboard? And I was like, oh my God, I want to do, that's so fucking awesome. And this was this was in 2018.
Yep.
We're talking like 2016 now, 2015. And he's like, can you do the billboard? And I'm looking at the billboard and I'm like, okay, you could do something super abstract art, right?
Mhm.
But that's really not going to translate into a New York City billboard, right? So I was like, what's going to translate the best? It's like probably a quote, like saying something.
Okay, so this is the
And so
fire escape.
I had just been arrested like a year prior for climbing a fire escape, because I used to, when I was younger, I'd go in Soho, climb fire escapes, get on the roofs, and just walk across all Soho, and you'd peek into like fucking super beautiful penthouses and just find cool stuff on top of New York City roofs. And so we get caught by the police, get called. They're like, what are you doing? And we're like, well, we were just like kind of looking at the stars, really. Like, they're like, where's the graffiti? Where's the stealing? And we're like, we actually didn't do any of that. And so I remember coming up with the quote, like, I climbed the fire escape to see the stars, KidSuper. And I put it on the billboard. And that was kind of a metaphor for like shooting for the moon, being in New York City where it's like trying to make it as much as you can, finding all ways to the top. It was like, I really do love that quote.
Yeah, it's a good quote.
Anyways, ends up kind of going a little viral on Tumblr. People really like it. I know some girl that's a good friend of mine that moved to New York City, and like day one took a picture of that and was
Hell
like,
yeah.
this is my motto in New York City. And
Got tattooed on her inner arm.
not yet, but she should.
I'm sure there's a few out there.
Tanima. So I did that, and she was really impressed with that.
Mm.
She asked me to do this Mountain Dew sponsored art show where you do a thing with Mountain Dew. I make this like so elaborate stop motion thing.
Hell yeah.
And it's like the hardest working, like everyone else did like some stupid stuff. I did this like 10-minute stop motion film, and it has like, it's like a Rube Goldberg kind of vibe. Anyway, she's like, holy shit, you did this in 5 days. Then she asked me to do, then the same kid, Woodson, who curated that first show, curates another art show, not with wall play, but, and it's asking, it was like 2016, maybe 17. And the whole thing was, this is not a safe space was the name of the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And he got all these different races and different types of people to talk about their race. And so he goes, Colm, what's it like being white? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to answer this question. I was like, no matter what I say, I was like, I'm white. I have no opinion on anything racial. And so I'm like,
smart.
And Woods is black, and he's like, come on, Colm, like answer this question. I was like, look, to be honest, I don't really think about being white too often. And he's like, that's it, dude. He's like, never do I walk out the house and not think about being black. And I was like, fuck. I was like, man, that's the idea. That's the difference. And so I was like, what if, this was like 2015. I was like, what's something I go through on a day-to-day basis where like I don't notice that I'm white, right? Or blah, blah. And so I was like flicking through channels, and I was like, Friends is white. Seinfeld's white. Like our president's white. All this stuff is white. What if... Like, would that prevent me from thinking I could be these things because you don't see examples of it? And so I was like, what if I just change the races of all of television?
So this is watching TV as a minority.
Watching TV as a minority. And so I did like Asian Seinfeld, Black Gossip Girl.
That was a big video.
Big video.
A lot of bits.
Yeah, a lot of bits. Fully free.
Wow.
Didn't spend $1.
Wow.
Edited it, shot it all on like a small camera, did it all myself. I did like Scary Movie where white guy dies first. I did NBA Seek NBA
it was
Superstar.
Pretty profound and ahead of its time.
Pretty profound
almost.
and super ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Because now TV is like becoming that.
Well, everything is like overly diversified, and
so
people are scared.
And
of
nobody people then, and the cool thing was one of the artists that I'm a huge fan, Philip T. Anand. He started Madberry Club. You would be a super fan of him. He's an absolute creative. He's like you know how you have a creative crush? I'm a huge creative crush.
Love it.
Will suck his creative cock.
I will. For sure.
But anyways, he was in there, and he was one of the other artists that were in the show. And I remember him watching it. And at first he was like, I don't see the difference.
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to take. But he was watching the video, and he was like, I don't get. And then it slowly hits like, oh, the races are different.
I didn't get it at first either.
Yeah.
I mean, the title even, but yeah.
So, that video, again, a video that deserves like 10 million views. So come on, YouTube. But so I did that, and then Wallplay, Laura saw it again, and she was like, holy shit, this is amazing. I want to show it at my other Wallplay space. And she had always kind of worked with this Gallery 151, right? And I kept being like, let me do my first solo art show here. She's like, no, Colm, you're not ready. Let me do this. No, Colm, you're not ready. And so I did there's like 5 other projects that I did with her. And so finally she's like, all right, Colm, you can do it.
And you're pretty popping in 2018, you know?
Decently known. So that's the first time I worked with Jagermeister.
Oh, really?
And so they call me, and they're like, because they have a person that's trying to do cultural stuff in New York, and KidSuper had popped up, and she called me and was like, are you doing anything recent? I'm like, oh, I'm doing my first art show. I'm like, yeah, send like 10 bottles of Jagermeister or 5 bottles of Jagermeister. She's like, how many people are going to come? I'm like, it's an art show, probably like 70, right? She comes, pulls up with the full bar. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? And then she's like, yeah, we have like first 70 people. Ends up like 400 people come.
Lot. I mean, it was like a concert at the end of the night.
There's a line down the block. It's raining,
it's
snow.
Snowing,
yeah. So she's like,
it's actually exactly 4 years ago in 4 days.
Yeah, which is nuts.
Yeah.
But she's like, holy shit, you overperform. Like overperformed, under promised, or under promised, over delivered,
mm-hmm.
which is like the motto of KidSuper,
100%.
right? And so that's why like everyone's always like, oh, you're so lucky you got all these brand stuff. It's like I really worked really hard, and every time they like worked with me, I like tenfold it.
And you hear about successful people a lot with that similar mindset,
Right.
where it's like you have an opportunity, even the first one with this Laura girl,
Yeah.
and you like go buck wild when
Right.
you don't need to, because who knows what's going to lead down the line in relationships. And
No,
I completely
And
concur.
that was huge for me. So about like taking these out and showing and proving to them, not only that, like they watched me for like that. So the thing about Laura, she was like, yeah, you can have an art show in 3 weeks as an opening. And I'm like, I was like, I've been asking you for 4 years. Like, all right, 3 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And I had done some of the sculptures before, but so I had to do all these new paintings because I don't necessarily make like big canvases all the time.
Yeah, those are big boys.
So usually I'm making like little doodles that I'll add to a t-shirt or a clothing. And so I had to do all these stuff, but they both watched me like for 2 weeks not sleep. Like I slept at the gallery.
Yeah.
And I was painting there, and like if you touched any of those paintings,
Yeah,
they were all wet.
I remember people were kind of rubbing up on it.
Yeah.
And you're like, yo.
And I had to fix them and stuff.
Yeah.
But those are the moments where it's like, if you're a brand, who are you gonna work with? The person that gave him his all, or some dude who was like, oh yeah, Jagermeister's here. Like, I was super appreciative and worked really hard.
Yeah.
So that's like the name of the game.
No, your whole career is based on grinding and hustling. And I mean, again, just, I don't know you at all, but following your Instagram story, it would always be like, haven't slept.
Yeah.
Slept, just working. And for this one specifically, I remember you being like, I'm turning off my phone and locking myself in this gallery. Don't hit me up for 5 days.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
And that was super real. And this was a great turning point. I mean, I really love that you have this. This is incredible.
Hell yeah.
I'm glad I gave you the fucking hoodie. But no, this was a real moment for me, because like these paintings are the paintings I want. Like, this is the style of art that I want to be known for as a painter.
I was enthralled. I mean, like, art is art, but like some of these, the big ones, like this one, I loved. The purple one, which
The
I think was
the best
flyer.
one.
Yeah, this one, the matriarch.
This one's the best one.
It was awesome,
That
dude.
was some
it was such
magic.
an awesome show for me also, because again, I was like, I knew you made clothes, but I wasn't a fan for necessarily that. I was like, oh, this creative director, look at him now. He's doing this art show. I was painting. I was like, holy fuck, this is inspiring.
So, and then a lot of it sold, which was crazy too. So,
Dude, I have such a funny story about that. Ryan Foss, because his younger sister went to my school, so I kind of knew him. And after this, I was like, yo, you want to help me? I'm doing like whatever, wall play. But for this one, actually, do you know Jake Essie?
No.
Okay, so one of Ryan's friends, another kid from our town, at the end of the show, he was talking to this kid next to the painting, and he came and he was like, yo, Sam, like, what do you think of this painting? And I was like, I was honest, I was like, it's not my favorite. Like, I really liked these other ones. And he just like went white-faced dead. He was like, all right, peace. And he was trying to sell that to this kid, Jake Essie. And I was kind of like, it's not my favorite one. I like these other ones more. I also love.
What's funny about it is I was like, don't sell it. I want it.
Oh, yeah.
And so, well, like, it's not my favorite either. And
Well, I like the other ones. Like, no hate.
Look, I'm not like the type of person, like, I completely agree. And I mean, I did that in like 20 minutes before the thing started. But this one, this one's got some fucking magic to it. I want to buy this one back. And then
most of them sold, you're saying, which is epic.
This one is fire too. I like that one as well.
Yeah, that one 100%.
This one's trash. That one's okay.
These were really cool. I love these. I mean, little just, you know,
that's what I'm best, probably what I'm
best
best at.
Yeah, on all your packages and stuff. Chris, hopefully we can overlay some photos for people to see.
But no, it's
a relic. I love that artifact.
The fact that you have this is so
I kept it. You know why? Because I literally back then wanted to start a podcast and have you on. Like, I save all that shit.
You're so good. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, all this stuff, it takes years, but if you have the vision, it sticks to it.
Full circle.
So what if you want to know something cool? But
I don't.
Yeah. And we're done here. Yeah. So my next fashion show is gonna be a art show. Whoa. And it's going to be 30 paintings with 30 looks. And each painting is going to have a look next to it.
Holy shit.
And so I'm going to do that in Paris in some gallery.
Is this like next spring?
It's in June. So,
this summer.
So
dude, that's crazy.
I have to paint. Yeah, and so all of March, I'll probably end up doing like 20 paintings, 20 looks probably. Mm-hmm. But like my goal is 30 paintings.
That's insane.
Looks.
That's very cool.
But so like yeah, like this is the so what's funny about this show is since I'm not always painting canvases, I'll like forget what my style is and or I'll be like, and then I'll look back at these and be like, this is like, I mean, not to be fucking braggadocious or whatever, but like this, I could see this in a museum and be like, okay,
Sure.
I understand this vibe. And so these really, and I put a lot of these paintings on clothing and I've done it on scarves and dresses and all this stuff. But this was a huge, like what of the things that I've done, this is like one of my most proud moments.
I
So
mean,
the fact that you were there is pretty amazing.
I loved it. I did there's even a longer vlog
Yeah.
on YouTube of me and my friends like going. Anyways, it was very inspiring for me, and I was like, oh, it just gave me fire under my tuchus.
Yeah, and now you're here and you have this spot, so. But fuck, I love that. And I even like the name Flying Machine, which is mainly Laura helped curate.
All right, I got to move on because we're running out of time. Not really. Go. A big question, and like I'm so interested in like business, and for me myself, like scaling up here, having people help me out, trying to build a team.
Yeah.
We just talked about all this crazy shit you've done, and obviously you're a hard worker, but you've had to have help along the way.
Right.
And I have this quote from a Fader interview from 2020. You were asked, "What's your biggest weakness?" Or if a superpower has a kryptonite, what's your biggest weakness? And you said, I guess, and I quote, I guess my biggest weakness or something I think that has held back the business is the ability to trust other people and delegate. As a company grows, we are going to need more and more people involved, and that's very tough for me.
That is a great quote. So
my question is, that was in 2020. You're obviously building this huge new spot, which I want to talk about after this, but how has your company grown / who's on the actual KidSuper team? I know Foda, but like who is full-time? Who's on payroll? Like, do you have accountants? Do you have lawyers? Like, I'm just really curious about the back end.
Yeah.
How do you produce all these fucking clothes? How do you get a director to shoot this $250,000 budget? Like, I just want to know the nitty gritty behind the scenes.
No problem.
I know you're great, but you got great people, I'm assuming.
That is a quote that I still live by. There's no one on the payroll.
Wow.
There's people that I pay casually for different projects. Foda has his own thing many of the times where he's making his own websites, that stuff. And then within KidSuper, we're always working on different projects. But like if he needs money, he has my bank account whenever he wants. And if he wants to do stuff, like we're more of partners and stuff, but it's not like a salary thing. Because he also will go off and do his own thing for 2 months and not touch any KidSuper stuff. And then I have my close friends that like are always that do different projects that I'll have come in and help. There's always been that. And then for like specific projects like the fashion show, I know this producer who does music videos. His name's David Wept, and we've worked on like 7 or like whatever, all the videos together. And he was a young up and coming video producer, and then now he does like name a rapper. He's probably produced a video, and he's really good at like last minute. I mean, rappers are like, we need a music video tomorrow and it's in Atlanta and Young Thug has 2 minutes. And so he has to scramble.
Right.
So he's really good at scrambling and coming up with stuff. And so that's how those projects. And then the clothing stuff, I do it all. I speak with factories. I speak with, I mean, now I've just done it for a while that I know like sizing and stuff like that. And then
the relationships you've developed.
And the relationships. And then for like, so for different projects, we did different people. Like for some fashion shows, we'll bring in sewers, we'll bring in helpers for that stuff.
But that's so interesting. So you have no like personal assistant or like a manager. You were talking at the beginning. Like, you have no full-time like employee, some switchblade.
No.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I know. It kind of, I mean, the more I say it, the more no one expects it. Everyone thinks there's like this magic behind it. But yeah, there's not. But that's what I was saying. Like in 2020, I'm really bad at delegating. Like even when I was doing the fucking fashion film, like I wasn't huge fights, but I was yelling at everyone because I was like, give me the fucking camera.
Yeah.
Like I'll do this. Or like, because I also helped edit it a little bit. I helped do all this stuff. And like, I've edited all the other ones myself, and this one we had an editor on, and like me and the editor were going back and forth, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But then you hit it. What I was saying was like, what was great about that was like, that production was too big that Colm couldn't do.
Yes. Right.
And that was the moment where I was like, because like that, the short stories where it was like 7 short stories of the one you really like, where it's like insane genius one.
Yeah.
That one wasn't big enough that Colm couldn't do everything. Colm did everything.
Dude, that was still a big production.
I
like,
know.
The shots, the people. Like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like I directed that one. I edited that one with Kenny.
but you had like a DP. You had like a couple.
DPs.
Right, yeah.
Of course. Yeah, I'm not holding the camera.
You're not
ever.
here just with like a
No.
tripod.
And that one's beautiful, but that I'm saying like that was small enough.
Still, where you could kind of
like
manhandle
things
everything.
weren't going really well, and I was like, okay, let's change the shot. Let's do this. Let's be nimble. This last thing, I was like, oh, I've hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
Where Colm can't do it.
But is that like kind of refreshing and exciting to like release and trust other people? Because I completely understand you. When you have the vision, when you have experience with editing, filming,
it's
more time to.
It's
give someone
amazing
that job.
when it works. It's not amazing when it doesn't work. You know, there was moments in that thing where I was like, damn, fuck, this isn't going how I wanted, and it was like, it literally was like the Titanic, like. We're going toward that glacier and it's too big. You can't move it.
Yeah.
Let's just see if we can survive from that glacier. And a lot of the reasons that didn't work was because I didn't plan. Like, obviously you saw the film. It looks great. It was a good success. But in my mind, I had a little different vision, but
I thought the narrative was a little bumpy.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean,
also a 16-minute, like you can't like flesh out some crazy arcing characters. Like it's,
right.
It was awesome, but I mean, I could still rip it apart. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
kidding. It was
I'm saying
amazing.
like
it was amazing.
No, and I agree. Like I give myself like a 68 or like 73% on the test.
Yeah, but 100% for effort and dream.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Always.
So, and I'm not mad at it at all. But I'm saying, well, I guess my whole point of this was like, there was moments where I felt it like going a little bit off, and it was just too big of a production and too many people involved for me to be like, everyone get up, like let's
pick
change
up,
it.
let's change it.
Yeah.
I see. That
and
makes sense.
the main issue was my planning. Like I didn't give dude, I wrote the script like 2 weeks before shooting.
Wow.
And so I didn't give myself enough time to really like settle and then like I was casting, I was, like even getting Joey Badass to be a part of it. Like that's a whole thing of
coordination.
Me, like, and it wasn't like I hired a casting director. And
that's what I'm saying. Like it just seems so much. I mean,
no, I almost died on that one.
Yeah, but
and
everything,
I also
dude,
had
that's just one of your little things. You throw huge parties and events every year. Like
that one solved me too. And Jagermeister, I mean, saying like all these different events have a bunch of people that come in because of like Jagermeister has a whole team to throw those parties. I have like my friend group of personal friends all have different projects, but they come in and help for different things.
So that's interesting. I think that's unique because in my mind, you're so big now with so many different things that it would make sense to have kind of, or to build this core, maybe a few more people to trust to like, when these things, I have these crazy ideas, there's a couple just brick and mortar
like,
people.
I'm saying like, that's my biggest like flaw and issue. And it's like coming.
Well, yeah.
And so
looking forward, what are we thinking?
Yeah, I'm trying to, and also like another thing is like the business makes money, right? But the reason the business has been able to be so nimble and do all these, like you don't see any other brand doing what I'm doing.
No, the nimbleness.
That's because it's only me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
and you're able to pick up, jump, do whatever.
But also like there's moments where like after my first fashion show in Paris, I couldn't Uber home because I didn't have enough money.
Wow.
Still, my friends Ubered me home. But had I had them on salary, I would have had to like cut them all off and ruined really good relationships because Colm decided to spend all his money on a fashion show.
Yeah.
So there's been moments where it's like
crazy.
Because it's only been me, I was able to survive.
Well, it makes sense when you're literally cherry picking crazy different projects, huge animations, music videos, fashion shows, short films. Like it's not impossible, but it seems like incredibly hard to have one person who could do all of that. That's not you. You literally need to clone yourself.
Yeah, and like, I mean, don't get me wrong. My friends have like, photo's a huge part of KidSuper, but Foda having his own thing has been a huge part of KidSuper. Foda, like a cool thing with me and Foda is like Foda makes websites, right? So Joey Badass comes into the store. I'm like, Joey, your website sucks. I'm like, you should meet Foda. Foda gets a gig, right? And now Foda's been paid for that. I mean, Foda could make so like those things have survived because we benefit off of each other, and it makes sense. But had Foda just done KidSuper websites and not gone and gotten other jobs, we wouldn't have afforded it.
That makes sense. Foda he's the in-house, all things virtual. We make about 3 fake websites a week, try to go viral, attempt to get rich quick schemes.
What also Foda's really good at is Foda has a very specific, like, he knows what he likes, and he's really opinionated, and so he's always helped design meetings and design stuff. So like we're always bouncing stuff off. So like Foda is a switchblade in himself.
Yeah, the yin yang. Your video with Samsung is really great.
Yeah, so like, and he's very different than me.
Yeah,
which is great because like I don't smoke pot, right? I don't do any, and he's a huge pothead. But that has helped us a ton because people come over and want to hang out and talk, and I'm not going to be that person. So like he's built better relationships with some of these people, and so it's great. And like me and Foda, like he understands like the bank account situation with KidSuper where it's like we've never taken investment. We've done crazy shit to not take investment. So, and we're not really good at, it's not like I have an essentials line that's always making me money and we're in fucking all these stores. Right. So it's still like an art first brand. So the fact that there's been such a small team has really helped the brand.
That's so interesting. And like, I'm very into it again, just like the behind the scenes of how movies are made, just like the behind the scenes, the framework of the company is so interesting.
Because everyone thinks like you must have some money to be able to throw around to be doing all this stuff. And the real thing is these brands and the nimbleness of KidSuper. The like leanness. There's no one leaner. But I do think like we have a guy who does sales for KidSuper, right? And that I have like everyone that has their own job, their own thing that comes in and helps. So he does sales for like wholesaling for KidSuper, and he takes percentage off of each sale he gets. And I have another person that like people come in and be like, I want to be your manager. And I'm like, no, but if you bring in a job, I'll give you a percentage.
Good call.
So I have a bunch of people that do that. And like the management stuff is like, I don't think you deserve to touch all of the KidSuper shit.
Right.
But if you bring it in,
sticky,
you can. And so, and that's a good relationship with me. I love those type of people because you only make money when you make money.
Yeah, and you're not like saving, hoarding money. You're literally dropping a season, getting money, and putting it right back into the.
And
other thing.
That's another thing. Like you'll never see me cop like a jewelry or a Lamborghini or whatever. I was like, for that fashion show it was like $350.
That's insane.
I could have bought a Lamborghini, right? I don't even know how much Lamborghinis
could have bought a flat in Japan.
Yeah.
No, or maybe rented one.
I don't. Yeah. But I'm saying, so like I blew all that money on like really creativity.
Exactly. No, 100%.
Nothing else from that was creative. And in my mind, though, that little misadventures is going to lead to a real KidSuper show. And on HBO or fucking Netflix. Because I think a show on how...
Let me get a cameo, dude. I'll suck your knees, man.
Well, that could be the cameo because, it'd be like Colm's testing out his sexuality. He bangs some hipster from
Just
Brooklyn.
Get me. I want to see. Or let me film the behind the scenes, the documentary.
We could do that. But yeah, I'm saying like... that I guess everything's like investing in the future too.
Yeah, and that's like something even 10 years down the road, you become bigger than Nike.
Yeah,
it probably won't change. Like you're just gonna do even more epic craziness.
I do think building the team is like everyone's in my ear about it, and I want to.
But okay, let's talk about your new huge space. Like this is a huge venture, probably gonna change the next course of 5 years of your brand, of your workflow. Like maybe there's going to be an opportunity, new experience where you're going to have these new roles. So can we talk about your desires behind the new spot? What is it? Have you talked about a lot? I was searching the web.
No,
not a lot.
No one really
Exclusive.
knows. Oh yeah. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, I just signed a lease for 10,000 square foot.
Jesus, McGoyam.
10 square. Oh, you haven't been. You didn't come to the party.
No, I didn't. I was in LA this
Yeah.
past week.
So
I would have come with Action Bronson. You were doing
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I was saying I threw a birthday party, Halloween party there with
Oh,
Chingy.
this was past. Oh, that was at the new spot?
Yeah, that was
okay.
the day I signed the lease.
Oh, I was around, but no, I didn't come.
Cool. Dope. Yeah, I bet you were doing something way cooler.
Probably not.
Yeah, no, there's zero chance. It was an awesome party. It was the coolest party. I had legit Chingy perform.
Regrets, my dude.
Yeah. Anyways, so I have a 10,000 square foot like building in Brooklyn that I had been like looking for a KidSuper 2.0 because we were kind of growing out of it and blah 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 blah. And I had all these sponsors. So I was saying, I was like, I've been pitching sponsors this idea for fucking 10 years, and now all the sponsors were like, oh, we'd love to be a part of it. And I was like, well, I don't really even have this space that I'm like pitching about. So I finally got this space that it was like, I'd looked at millions of locations in New York, and every time it was like warehouse, garage, you'd open it up and it'd be a garage.
Yeah.
So like no running water, lights disgusting, blah, blah. This one looks like a disgusting garage. Open it up. An app company had been there for 8 years.
Hell yeah.
So they had completely converted it.
Tech nerds, baby.
To like a tech, looks like the inside of a Spotify office. And so I was like, where do I sign the lease? Like, this is incredible. And they had gone, so when COVID hit, all of their employees went remote. And then when COVID died down, they were like, yeah, no, we want to stay remote.
Yeah.
And so this guy had this huge office, and he was like, okay, this makes no sense. I have to leave. And so he left. And basically left like so much of his furniture too. It looked like if there was a fire and you just had to leave. And I was like, why did they leave? Like, it literally has like a full screen. It looks like this.
Wow.
Like if you
and you just get it?
and I just get it.
That's sick.
So like we were like, okay,
Thanks, COVID.
so yeah.
Just kidding.
But so
thanks.
now I have this 10,000 square feet. And so I'm like sectioning it off into all these different places. So there's going to be a store, recording studio, screen printing area, office, art studio, gallery, and like a photo shoot area. Then there's a VR or like editing bay, and that I'm so like all of those different spots are sponsored by different
Holy shit. That's so cool.
companies. And literally, what part of my sponsor thing is like, you must come with an employee. Like, give me money and give me a human being. And so, like, I'm trying to build my team off of that.
That's very cool.
So
is this like, are there those things set up? Like, you've had since October. Is it almost ready? Like, you're not
No.
working out there yet, no?
no, like, it takes 2 months to get a permit to put up a wall. Like, the New York City stuff is
shiza.
very strict.
Because it's like a retail, so you have to go through the bureaucracy of that.
And since I'm getting these sponsors, it has to be really, like, fucking permitted and stuff. Like, there's a step up to exit one of the walls, and I have to like build like a 15-foot ramp, or else it doesn't fit like fire code, which like if I don't have that, then the amount of people that are allowed in that building are like half or whatever.
You're selling out, man,
So,
to the fucking industry.
Yeah, no, like
no more rappelling down from your apartment.
Yeah, but what's cool about it is it's now another catalyst to build relationships, to build projects. And so what I'm saying is like, what you were saying is you need people there. It's like, yeah, finally, because that was another thing. Like, I always needed help with KidSuper, but I never knew what that was, right? There wasn't like a distinct role because I was doing so many things where it was like, I need a guy who does So now I'm like, okay, I need a store manager, right? But let's also have that store manager communicate with China. So like now I get rid of that on my plate.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a guy to run the photo studio. Let's also have that guy do product shots and websites. So now I'm like, okay, I'm figuring out these roles where people are, because I never could justify like hiring someone to do just like product, because like it's hard for me, but I mean, it's not worth paying someone $5,000 a month or whatever you want.
But are you like really excited / nervous / who knows with this huge new venture? Because I feel like it's a big deal. And
yeah, I am.
I mean, you've been dreaming about it for a while, but that's different than actually running it, having it,
I really want to make, I'm excited for the store to be fully running. like having a real KidSuper store that's
always open
hours,
yeah.
etc.
That would be really cool.
I'm really happy. I'm really excited to like have the recording studio booming. I'm excited to like have the gallery. I'm trying to do like exchange programs with like other studios and galleries like in foreign countries and stuff like that. We've been talking to one in South Africa, talking to one in fucking like Denmark and stuff.
Wow.
And then yeah, I'm just excited to like walk into a space that's KidSuper and see like 100 people doing shit out of it. And like even so part of it, we're working with this app called Creatively, and they're building like an editing suite and a podcast plot.
Hell yeah, dude.
Am I gonna have a KidSuper podcast? I don't know, but like I could have someone do a podcast,
or you could do intermittent shows if you ever want to talk. Like it's totally, there would be a use case for a lot of
them. So all that stuff is exciting. I want to put a cafe in there. I've always wanted like a little cafe and stuff.
You're a coffee drinker?
No, I've never actually drank coffee in my life. I've never had.
Just as like a chill spot.
I've never had a full glass. I've only done this to coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee because it makes me shite, but I love the taste.
Oh, I think that,
I like it.
I think that, I mean, my personal opinions of the taste, I don't think are for the podcast, but
it's okay.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't really like drinking alcohol. I never smoked weed. I'm pretty like
just no sleep and work.
Yeah, I get excited. Like for me, it's like if I'm tired but I like the project, you could get me up.
Well, that's the definition of like natural Adderall. It's like passion drives everything. Also, passion is contagious.
And that's a huge thing is like I can't stress enough, but a lot of these KidSuper projects that I'm like sleepless nights are like I'm writing dream list. Like I'm checking off these dreams. Like that 30-minute or 20-minute misadventures was like a dream. And also like I felt like I went through film school.
Oh, I believe it.
I was like,
I can't
holy
imagine.
shit.
And there's way more than you had like grips, like all these PAs.
Dude, we had
like,
walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
We had like, it was a full-on.
Separate monitors. Like I saw I'm telling you, I had like a fucking arousal when I saw
it was
couple stories you posted.
It was nuts. And I was like, I mean, yeah, it was the craziest learning experience. I was like, wow, really doing. I was fucking pumped, dude. And even it going like not exactly what I wanted, like feels great. Like another huge thing about KidSuper is like I finish everything, right?
Huge. That's a big thing.
So,
you execute.
And so like I remember talking to people about it. I was like, I want to shoot a pilot episode for this fashion show. They're like, when is it? I'm like, a month. They're like, there's just no way. Like, why would you do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, if I'm not going to do it now, what are we going to wait another year?
Yeah.
And like I learned so much from that fashion show. Imagine I spent a year to learn the same exact shit.
Forged through fire, man.
So, and what's good is I have this fashion show thing to like use as a playing ground. Like even if that video sucked, you're like, it's a fashion show, right? So you're not like
scapegoat.
It's my scapegoat of like, even if this sucked huge, it was a huge fail, it's still on Paris Fashion Week. You're still invested in the world.
But also, next time you're just going to be that much more prepared. Like failing, making something, maybe it's not exactly what you want. The XP points is, I'd arguably say, more important.
Yeah. And like that, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a failure.
No. Yeah.
I mean, we had Mark Jacobs in it. And we had me and Joey Badass going, is that fucking Mark Jacobs?
No, it is really crazy.
It's unbelievable.
And it also was just like a nostalgia, all your crazy adventures. Like if people didn't know, it was like you stealing the M&M's thing.
It was huge.
Getting the speakers, right, for parties. Like it was pretty cool nostalgia trip.
So I want to now is like what I'm trying to do is really build out that series and write it as like a real series and see if some network wants it. Because if I was a network, right, a show about making a brand in 2022 with really cool people seems like a no-brainer. Because if you ask the 17-year-old kid what they want to be when they grow up right now, I think 7 out of 10 are going to be like, a brand.
100%. But those, like, I couldn't agree more. I feel like everyone agrees, but it has to be just mostly about money with those big studios. Like some bullshit, like bureaucracy. Right? Like there's like, okay, how is it going to do though?
No,
like,
the streaming shit is all like numbers, right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
But you could argue like this will give those numbers because of like the relevancy,
yeah, but you could also maybe like like, hey, I could promote some sort of product or like my brand. You have that whole angle. We got to end soon, but we're going to rip through the Instagram questions.
Yes.
And this is going to be like rapid fire, so minute less answers.
Cool. Yes. No. Yes. No.
All right. Well, these are kind of big questions, so we'll see if you could do that. What was the process like getting people to wear your garments in the beginning?
So
You kind of spoke about it.
No, but I remember when I was in high school, we literally sat down at a table and we were like, how do we get not our friends to wear clothes? And we literally couldn't come up with the answer because it was before social media.
Yeah.
So I remember going to Blades, a store, and I've said this story before, but like going to Blades and be like, sell our clothes, and they're like, no.
Oh, yeah.
But it ended up with small time musicians where there was a group of rappers or like a duo called Upper West. They were the first people to like wear it in their music video. Their music video got 200K views.
Wow.
I started getting like 1 or 2 orders from people I didn't know. And they were just like from New York, people that I just like, it wasn't even in my mind, like, did I love their music or hate their music? I was just in. They're young, trying to make it in music. I'm young, trying to make it in the brand. They were like 17. I was like 18, so it was perfect. Then Mac Miller wore it. Then So
just forcing almost small people with
Just-
similar interests.
yeah,
Not
and like
forcing,
you
but-
don't know where someone's gonna end up,
Yeah.
and so like yes, now Mac Miller is an absolute legend, but at the time it was like not so solidified. So you don't know who's gonna wear your clothes to make you feel or to be the next person.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
don't go in with the intention of trying to blow up and have some.
No, and
crazy
like a
exposure.
huge thing for me was the young assistant stylist, right? That were styling nobodies are currently the main stylists.
Wow.
So you grow together.
Yeah. I
So
like that.
be a good person.
Be a good person. Kindness. What's the 10-year goal?
10-year goal.
We got to rip through these.
Yeah, okay, 10-year goal.
That's a crazy question.
No, but I want KidSuper to be like you know, where Red Bull or Disney is, you know.
Hell yeah.
So
dude.
like having a KidSuper soccer team, having a TV show, having a content.
that's
10-year goal.
That's pretty cool. What is an item that you haven't made for KidSuper that you really want to make?
Item? That's a hard one. I don't know. I was gonna say soccer cleats, but we made soccer cleats. I was gonna say soccer jersey, but we did that.
Yeah, and I'm
Next.
sorry this whole... Okay,
No,
next.
I
Also,
don't-
I didn't talk about much of your soccer passion.
No,
in
don't
this
worry, don't
interview,
worry.
But I know it's a huge thing for you.
Things I want a KidSuper soccer field.
Boom.
Does that go for product?
Yes, hell yeah. Is that going to be at the new spot? Possibly,
I'm trying to, but
possibly?
it was so expensive. I've already looked in.
I believe you.
I'm trying to convince all these Albanian dudes to just tie it to their back. I'm like, dude, just fucking lift the whole thing on the field. But
That's
anyways,
awesome.
next.
Are your clothes anything like those you made in high school? currently?
No.
No. Interesting.
It was different times, you know. It was very like graphic tee, streetwear. I mean, it was literally KidSuper written in lobster font on a hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just t-shirt. I mean, now we're doing whole suits and fashion shows.
Yeah, that's true. Same.
But you
Same.
grow, like that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like you have to understand, like you're growing, the consumer's growing. Like, you know, skinny jeans were never cool, now they're cool. Baggy jeans were never cool, now they're cool. You know.
If you could fight any historical figure, who would it be?
Fight. Oh, jeez.
Fighting.
I mean, what? It,
I don't
like,
know.
let's
I
see
thought that'd
how
be a funny
let's
one.
see how big like Napoleon really is. It's like
Yeah.
he was short.
He's
big
probably
win.
in the timeline world of history. Yeah, he is a Napoleon complex.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That popped up.
Where do you find your motivation, and specifically, how do you where do you find motivation when you're in a creative block? I get asked this all the time, and I have a similar question, but I'm curious. What do you
So when I'm in a creative block, let's say it's for designing clothes or something, I'll try to do something else that's more tedious but still creative, that doesn't require so much thought. So like, let's say, for example, I had to design this collection, but I'll be like, okay, let me just try to draw this.
Hell yeah.
And then once you're in it, you're like, okay, oh wow, a bow tie. Oh, that's cool, that print. Oh, maybe I'll do, and then you're off to the races on creativity. So for me, that stuff, like just doing tedious creative stuff, really helps. And like,
Will spark.
it'll spark, but also like worst case scenario, you got better at drawing.
Hell yeah.
You know, and so that's for me. I always tell people, it's like just keep at it. You know, don't allow yourself to be in this slump. Like, don't allow. Like, think about it like homework for an essay. there's still always a due date.
Yeah.
You have to put something on the paper.
Yeah.
It might not be your best essay ever, but you have to finish
Good
it.
analogy.
Take that, and then after you're like, holy shit, I just wrote 5 pages on fucking Greek mythology.
Hell yeah.
So I think I see that. I see my creativity kind of like that.
That's a good way. I like that analogy. That was wonderful.
That's all of those questions. I thought we
There
had
was
60. Come on, I thought these were fucking yes or no, quick questions.
There's kind of like a lot about like what's a success when starting a business. How do you start a brand? Pineapples on pizza or no pineapples on pizza?
I like pineapples.
Me too. People rip on it. I'll fucking eat anything. Bro.
I mean,
That
it's not my
shit's good.
top favorite, but like
No,
I
me
like
too,
it.
Exactly. I'm not gonna order every time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all the things I think are good. And also, we're running out of time. I think the camera's about to get out of. But thanks for coming on, man. This was wonderful. Did you have a good time?
I did. Talking about myself for an hour. You know, my podcast in my YouTube world is starting. All you guys, please subscribe.
No, I think it's wonderful. Like, I know you've talked a lot, but like, you know, having 20, 30 minutes to flesh out one idea, talking about your origins with wall play, like, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, the only thing I'm upset about is that I got everyone's name wrong, but I really do like those people, despite not knowing everyone's name. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. The thing of that 2018 art show really was sentimental, and I'm glad I gave you the hoodie off my back.
Yes, and it was wonderful.
And as a style icon you are, I hope you wear it constantly.
Wait, not for keeps?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
What, you think I just gave it for the outfit?
Oh, I thought it was just for the podcast. Wow, thanks, man.
No.
That's wonderful.
That's weird.
Off his back, the man's a giver.
Wow, you thought I was going to take it back?
Well, I thought you just said, yeah, for the podcast.
Yeah, wow. Oh, no.
My heart is full.
I didn't think you were going to put it on, so I thought you were just going to keep it. But yeah, I hope that the size works.
Oh, wow. I wasn't trying to guilt trip you, but damn, yeah, you should bring gifts for awesome
No,
people.
I really do think, I always like imagine myself getting interviewed, and in my imagination, I was bringing gifts. But for some reason, I didn't today. Well, I didn't sleep at home. I slept at my mom's house.
Well, shout out. Well, thanks again, man. Hopefully, maybe we could do this in a year from now. We could talk about what you've done in the crazy new spot.
Dude, hopefully you guys come to the new spot.
We'd love to.
And you can do whatever you want out of there. Like you could do a gallery show. You could do everything. That's the thing. It's a space for collaboration, and it's cool because it's not solely about me. So I'm not like as picky. You know what I mean? It's more for other people and stuff. Cool. Which I like.
Well, nothing but love, dude.
Thank you. Appreciate this.
Signing off. Oh.